Are the odds heavily stacked against China's lucrative Belts and Roads Initiative as a rising mountain of debts crushes the economic backbone of developing nations? Will the BRI be knocked completely off course as it finds itself buried deep in the quicksand of the current international debt crisis? Join us as we navigate the sticky terrain of China's latest financial fiasco. China is turning its back on pouring multi-billion-dollar investments into foreign shores. Things look far from ideal for the People's Republic as it shakes off its investor boots to slip into a new role, that of rescue lender. Storm clouds seem to be looming on the horizon. A March 2023 study released by the World Bank, Aid Data, the Kiel Institute for the World Economy, and Harvard Kennedy School paints a bleak picture. As per this latest report, things had been going south for China's initiative as early as 2021, when an astronomical $240 billion were shouldered by China and handing out rescue loans, along with 128 such operations, spanning across 22 countries that were under heavy debt. These countries still continue to buckle under the backbreaking economic strain and liability. African nations such as Egypt, South Sudan, Angola, Sudan, Kenya, and Tanzania are engulfed in financial flames. South American countries, which include Venezuela, Argentina, Ecuador, and Suriname, have also joined the list. In Asia, the South Asian belt with Pakistan and Sri Lanka, as well as other Asian nations including Mongolia and Laos, are dependent on China's generosity. There's Turkey, and the Middle East is not exempt either, with Oman following suit. The wind has certainly been knocked out of the sails of China's 2013 business plan that at one point in time was touted by the Chinese government as the project of the century. Come 2023, and all the pitfalls and loopholes have been laid bare. Debt sustainability has come under intense scrutiny, popping out giant question marks left, right, and center. China's own economy is slacking down and is crawling at an earthworm's pace. Aftershocks of the COVID-19 pandemic and geopolitical tensions between the People's Republic and the world's sole superpower have trapped China in an economic and political whirlpool, with the BRI being pulled down in the undertow. Christopher Trebesh of the Kiel Institute has hit the nail right on the head. China knocked at the door and entered many countries that were plagued by intense problems. The political and economic plague eating up these countries was contagious, and now China's BRI is right there with them in the pressure cooker. Is the once shining initiative of selling the dream of cross-continent land and maritime networks going kaput? The road hasn't been smooth for China's ambitious infrastructure project from the get-go. It has met its fair share of bumps, hiccups, and roadblocks. Controversy has followed the project like a dark shadow, leaving behind a trail of corruption, finger-pointing, intrigue, and scandal, along with debt write-offs. Did China do sufficient homework before putting its money-laden fingers in so many pies? The catastrophic chain of events points towards a lack of feasibility analysis and opaque dealings. BRI fever had ensnared as many as 150 countries in its grip in the not-so-distant past. It had blown up as an economic infrastructure elixir with the Chinese government and state firms, tucking away a comfortable number of 3,100 connectivity projects plus others under their belt in 2019. The plan harbored mammoth objectives with huge goals to link China with Asia, the Middle East, Africa, Europe, all the way to the shores of Africa. What led to the epic failure that crippled countries and kept them from repaying their loans? While there are a number of factors that can be listed, including the COVID-19 pandemic and Russia-Ukraine crisis, the top-tier reasons appear to be swelling global interest rates along with dollar appreciation. Both seem to be snowballing at breakneck speed, with developing countries struggling to keep up. China is ruffling many feathers as it dons the hat of lender of last resort. Financial institutions backed by the West seem to be wary. The IMF is not too chuffed at the idea of China's new lender avatar on a global scale. Executive Director of Aid Data, Bradley Parks, is unimpressed and calls out China's international financial lending maneuvers for denting global financial systems, making them less institutionalized and opaque. Infrastructure aside, the BRI is also about cross-continent countries being chums with China. China's cross-border lending to struggling nations had skyrocketed from a mere 5% in 2010 to a ginormous 60% in 2022. That's a massive jump. Parks remains unconvinced. He terms China's rescue loan brigade to facilitate nations already bent over with financial burden a highly risky affair. According to him, trying to suss out if the borrower is experiencing liquidity problems in the short haul or a major insolvency problem with long-term staying power is a key challenge. However, chumminess with China comes at a considerable cost. Compare the IMF's rescue loan interest rate, which stood at 2%, with a Chinese interest rate that amounted to a whopping 5% as late as March 2023. A study conducted by Center for Global Development, or CGD, a think tank based in Washington, sounded the alarm in 2018. According to its results, sovereign debt risk was to intensify for 8 of the countries that were entangled in the BRI. The results are currently materializing. As per the report, countries that will face a supremely uphill task when it comes to debt servicing include the Maldives, Pakistan, Djibouti, Laos, Mongolia, Montenegro, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan. Hit a ticking countdown. Take the case of Pakistan, who had to run to the IMF for a bailout as it got hammered by a gaping budget deficit due to the heavy-duty import cost of CPEC. 23 of the 63 countries, including Sri Lanka, that were acknowledged by the CGD as potential borrowers were deemed to be high-risk cases and were already dancing with danger when it comes to debt. Consistent failure to repay loans by recipient countries translates into the Chinese economy coming under threat with dwindling foreign currency reserves. It doesn't take a ridiculous amount of brain cells to figure out that the situation might slip into financial chaos for the Asian superpower and most of the recipient countries in the long term. Sri Lanka hit the headlines when China's state-owned port operator China Merchants Port Holdings acquired the reins of its Hambantota port, which was a product of Chinese loans. Several infrastructure projects also tanked. This further battered recipient countries that were cracking under pressure to cope with the upsurging costs in order to service their loans. Speaking of cracks, a dam in Ecuador that was constructed by the Chinese bears 7,000 cracks. Montenegro has grown its own BRI-funded bridge with a gangster reputation. The construction remains mired in a cocktail of controversy with allegations of corruption. Riddled by delays, the bridge has been left to its own fate. According to a report by Nikkei Asia, at the famed port of Hambantota, now under Chinese control, monkeys and peacocks reign supreme. Cows crowd the roads. State-of-the-art facilities such as the International Conference Center remain desolate because of a lack of supporting infrastructure. The Matala Rajapaksa International Airport carries the same gloomy air and sits in a league all its own as the world's emptiest airport with 0 passenger flights. Things seem to be slowly sliding from bad to worse, with countries trying to stay balanced on a very slippery financial slope. Laos is perched on the brink of a financial catastrophe, with a $6.7 billion railway linking China to Laos. The IMF has warned it to proceed with caution as danger lies ahead. Uganda pulled the plug on a railway deal worth $2.3 billion in January 2023 with China Harbour Engineering. The railway line was supposed to connect Uganda's border and Kampala with Kenya. The decision to back off was taken after the Chinese refused to pour money into the project through the Import-Export Bank. The project does stand on shaky ground with questionable financial viability. Indonesia's high-speed rail project, a joint venture under the BRI umbrella, is falling way behind schedule and jumping way over its initial budget from $6 billion to $8 billion. The project is moving at a painstakingly slow pace and is lagging at least 3 years behind schedule. The situation in Pakistan is even more scary, with a massive 1/3 chunk of its foreign debt owed to China. China continues to be in hot water with several European nations that hold the potential to be included in the growing list of BRI countries thanks to its blatant support for Putin's misadventure in Ukraine. Perhaps Russia is the only nation viewing the BRI through rose-colored glasses. As Russia plunges into a tense and strained relationship with the West, Putin is pondering the possibilities. The Russian oligarch has already acknowledged that he will merge his own vision of Eurasia with BRI. Till then, it's a wait-and-watch scenario. How do you think the chips will fall? If you like our content, please subscribe, and we'll see you later.